Today I'm going to rank each offensive line position in the Big Ten and give you my top 5 at each one of these positions, starting with center. So let's get into this.
Jalen Lloyd, 66 yards. He was wide open.
After the turnover.
He's got a man.
Harper going deep. Caught!
So I'm going to rank each position in the Big Ten and give you my top 5 at each position. So I feel that we need to start with the big boys up front, as they are essential for any winning program, any winning team, but doesn't seem to get the credit or the recognition they deserve when an offense is running on all cylinders. And that's the offensive line. So let's begin with the anchor of the offensive line, and that's the center. At number 5 of my top centers in the Big Ten is redshirt senior Jonah Manheim out of USC. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Manheim returns as the Trojans' most experienced and probably the most talented lineman on this team. With 34 career starts and 40 games played in his career, no doubt this young man has a lot of experience. The only reason he didn't make it higher on my list than number 5 is that he's starting and playing a new position this year at center. Manheim has recently and got most of his experience playing tackle, both right tackle and left tackle. He's played over 22 games at right tackle and 12 starts as a left tackle, giving the Trojans a very versatile offensive lineman, which should bode well for Manheim come draft time here this coming April, as I expect him to go high in this coming draft. Now, my number 4 ranked center in the Big Ten is senior Logan Jones out of Iowa. Jones has played center for the Hawkeyes for the last 2 seasons and is a fixture on the Hawkeyes offensive line that has been one of the best the last few years. Jones is 6'3", 290 pounds, and is now one of the Big Ten's best centers going into his final year in 2024. I expect Jones to be another top draft pick come April 25, as to me, both Jones and Manheim of USC will be drafted higher than the remaining centers you'll see on my list, even though they're not ranked higher, just due to the experience and especially Manheim's versatility of being one of the better tackles as well as centers. That's an NFL's wet dream right there. Now, my next 2 choices are tied for second, eliminating the 3rd place choice, as junior Josh Krutz out of Illinois and senior Ben Scott out of Nebraska tie for my number 2 ranked center in the Big Ten. Krutz, who is the youngest of this top 5 list, grabbed a hold of Illinois' starting center job last year, and he hasn't looked back since. He started all 13 games for the Illini a year ago and earned all Big Ten honorably mentioned last season. I expect Krutz to really make a big jump this coming year in his second year, and if he decides to stay for his senior year in 25, will probably rank the top center in the nation. But either way, expect Krutz to be drafted if he comes out this coming year or the one after, whenever he decides to come out. Now, senior Ben Scott out of Nebraska, who transferred from Arizona State a year ago, is anchoring a veteran offensive line for the Huskers in 2024, which should bode well for true freshman Dylan Raiola starting in his first year as quarterback. Scott played in all 12 games last year for the Huskers, helped boasting an offensive line in 2023 as one of the top rushing units in the nation. To me, this year will make or break Scott's draft status, as I just feel a lot of the NFL teams are still wanting to see a Husker team step up and perform as predicted. And that goes for the whole offensive line, not just Scott. But I expect 2024 to be a banner year for this whole group. Now, My number one center in the Big Ten, and it's not going to be any surprise, it's senior Seth Mlin out of Ohio State. Mlin is no stranger to being in the spotlight anchoring a high-powered program, as he transferred in from a very talented Alabama team in the SEC last year. Mlin played in over 35 games in his career, including 24 as a starter in his last 4 years at Alabama. Mlin, along with other top transfers to Ohio State, is one of the main reasons why Ohio State is highly expected to win the national championship in 2024. No doubt if Mlin can avoid getting hurt, Mlin will be a first-round draft choice come April, and to me will probably be the first center off the board. I mean, it's a shame he had to transfer to the Big Ten, just what the Huskers need to face, another top lineman added to already a Buckeye offensive line that's stout. But this shows you how good Mlin is, as he came into Columbus in January of this year and didn't take long to grabbing that top spot at center, anchoring a very stout Buckeyes offensive line. Now, let's rank the top 5 offensive guards in the Big Ten. Now, coming in at number 5 is senior Turner Corken out of Nebraska. Corken comes into his senior year. He's 6'6", 310 pounds, and is one of the most experienced offensive linemen you'll find in the nation. Corken is an academic All-Big Ten honoree in both 2022 and 2023. He started his first 7 games last year, taking his consecutive starting streak to 30 before getting injured and suffering a season-ending injury last year and sitting out the rest of the year. But I expect him to have one of the most productive seasons of any lineman come in 2024. His impact for this Husker line that starts numerous veterans with multiple years experience and is expected to be one of the strongest units in the nation. If they could stay healthy, no doubt this will be another make or break year for a Husker offensive lineman, and probably that you'll find out for almost all these Husker offensive linemen. This should tell you how high he'll end up come draft time in April of 25. Corken is also only the 15th true freshman offensive lineman to ever start for a Husker team in team history. And this is a school at one time was considered as offensive line university throughout the nation and was going by the nickname the Pipeline year in and year out. Now, my number 4 offensive guard in the Big Ten is another Husker, Florida transfer senior Micah Mazzccua. Mazzccua has played in over 31 games with 21 starts at both Florida and Baylor Bears before transferring to the Huskers for his final year. Mazzccua is 6'5", 325 pounds. He's a senior out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he adds, again, another veteran and another interior lineman to a veteran offensive line and a stout veteran offensive line for the Cornhuskers. Mazzccua played right tackle for Florida in 2023, starting 11 of their 12 games, where he totaled over 743 snaps, helping the Gators average 408.8 yards and 28.4 points per game against an SEC schedule that was considered one of the toughest schedules in the nation. Mazzccua also started for the Baylor Bears his first 2 seasons in college, grabbing the honors of being rated as the second best guard in the Big 12 at that time. His run blocking PFF grade was rated as the best in the Big 12 during both years in his first 2 years with the Big 12 before transferring over to the SEC, and was considered amongst the top 15 guards in the nation. Mazzcua's powerful blocking helped the Bears average over 32 points per game and 413.8 yards per game during his time at Baylor. So you could see, again, this gives Nebraska not only the experience, but another veteran on what you'll find is a solid and veteran line that's been together for a few years. Now, my number 3 ranked guard in the Big Ten is senior Kobby out of Iowa. Connor has accomplished a lot during his 4 years at Iowa. He earned freshman All-American after starting only 11 games, becoming the first freshman to start on a Hawkeye offensive line since 2017. Kobby was also third-team All-Big Ten selection last season, starting all 13 games at right guard. He finished last season with a PFF grade of 70.6 overall and a 73 run blocking PFF, which is considered best amongst all returning Big Ten guards you'll find. But what keeps him down from being one of the top two is his passing grade. If you look at his passing grade, it's one of the worst grades at 52.1, which is going to hurt him come draft time, as the NFL and these NFL teams want a strong pass blocker more than they want a run blocker. He will get drafted, but how high he goes is going to be limited because of his pass blocking grade. So if he could improve on that this year and have a solid senior year and improve on that, this will boast well for his draft status. But either way, he's still a great offensive guard. Now, my number 2 ranked offensive guard in the Big Ten is a transfer from Oregon State and is redshirt senior Tanner Miller out of Michigan, playing for Michigan State. He followed his head coach to East Lansing last year for his senior year. Miller might even be one of, or maybe even the best guard in the nation, totaling 815 snaps a year ago while playing both right guard and center at the same time. He was voted as a second-team All-American and a first-team All-Pac-12 last year on a Beaver offensive line unit that was nominated for the Joe Moore Award. For those of you that don't know what the Joe Moore Award is, that's an award they award to the nation's most outstanding offensive units that displays toughness, effort, teamwork, consistency, technique, and just finishing plays throughout each play. And it's the highest honor an offensive unit can receive in FBS. And Miller is also the highest ranking guard coming into 2024 with a PFF grade of 73.5 overall, behind only first-team All-American Zach Zenter, who's at a 76.7. So you could see this young man could have easily been the number 1 ranked guard, not only in the Big Ten, but in the nation, as the Big Ten, to me, has the top 2 ranked guards in the nation, and I expect both Miller and my number 1, 2 ranked guards to be the top guards drafted come April of next year. Now, my number 1 ranked guard in the Big Ten is the one and only senior Donovan Jackson, and you guessed it, out of Ohio State, which again just shows you why the Buckeyes are predicted by most sites to win the national championship this coming year. Jackson anchors a Buckeyes offensive line and is considered one of the top offensive linemen overall in the nation. He is a 2-time first-team All-American and has started 26 consecutive games for the Buckeyes. Last year, Jackson, along with his 2 other teammates, tied for the most plays played at 845 total plays from scrimmage. Jackson is 6'4", 320 pounds, and is a native of Texas, posting a PFF grade of 69.9 grade overall with a pass blocking grade of 72.7, which is why, to me, will be one of the first 2 guards selected in the 25 draft. As again I said, pass blocking is key in the NFL, and these NFL teams look for that. Now, let's finish up our rankings of the top players on the offensive line at each position with the top 5 tackles in the Big Ten. My number 5 ranked tackle of the Big Ten is senior J.C. Davis out of Illinois. Davis was a big get for the Illini as Davis transferred from New Mexico and is considered one of the top tackles in the nation and could have easily gone to the NFL last year, but decided to transfer to Illinois instead, which the Illini are definitely glad he did. Davis is 6'5", 320 pounds, and is rated as the number 3 returning pass blocking tackle and the number 2 run blocking tackle in the nation, with a PFF grade of 82.1 in pass blocking and 84.7 in run blocking, which you could see this makes Davis one of the most talented offensive lines overall, and probably will go easily in the first round in 2025 draft if he could just duplicate what he did last season. Davis was also considered as the number 5 offensive tackle that went into the portal last season, and the only reason he's not higher than number 5 on my list is that he needs to show me that he can easily do this or do this in the Big Ten and not just at New Mexico. No offense to New Mexico, but there's a big difference in playing New Mexico and New Mexico schedule and then playing in the Big Ten and playing a Big Ten schedule. Now, my number 4 ranked tackle in the Big Ten is, again, another transfer. And again, probably why he's ranked only number 4 on my list. He transferred in from Rhode Island last year, and that's Johnny Cornelius out of Oregon, but came from Rhode Island, played at Oregon in the Pac-12, and is considered one of the best returning tackles in the Pac-12. But like Davis, has to prove to me he could do it in the Big Ten, and I came close to switching Davis and Cornelius on this 4-5 spot, but Cornelius kind of got the edge because he came in and did it in the Pac-12 last season and seemed not to miss a beat when he came in, as he earned all Pac-12 honorable mention last season. Cornelius also didn't allow a sack and only let his quarterback get hit one time, which earned him my number 4 ranking, mainly because of his PFF grade from a year ago, grading at an 85.3 in pass blocking, which is the 3rd highest in the newly Big Ten Conference. Cornelius does have lots of experience and played in 889 snaps during his first season in the Pac-12 and is considered the best right tackle not only in the Big Ten, but in the country, as the PFF voted him into their way too early 2024 All-American team. But I feel there are others that have proven to me to be better. And again, I feel he needs to show me that he can do this and dominate in the Big Ten and duplicate what he did in the Pac-12. But don't get me wrong, I'm a Cornelius fan and would have loved for him to come to the Cornhuskers and be spending his senior year in Lincoln. But it is what it is, and I'm sure when they play Nebraska, he might have a little chip on his shoulder if he watches this video. But it's hard to put him higher than my top 3, and hopefully when you hear the top 3, you will agree with this. Now, my number 3 ranked tackle is another Oregon Duck and Cornelius's teammate, junior Josh Conerly Jr., which I know a lot of you is going to say, how can I have Conerly higher than Cornelius? And, you know, to me, these two were neck and neck, and it could have easily have gone Conerly at 4 and Cornelius at 3. And I know Cornelius has a better PFF grade than Conerly, but Conerly, 1, is a true junior. He's 6'4", 305 pounds, and he plays left tackle, which to me is a higher position, a hot position on the offensive line over right tackle, and probably is the top left tackle in the nation, and will be probably the top left tackle in the nation if he stays for his senior year in 2025. And it could end up being there anyway after this coming season, but I expect him to go into the draft after his junior season. So he does get my nod over Cornelius, mainly because he plays and protects at that hot position at left tackle, which typically, again, gets the defense's top defensive players on the line as they're trying to hit the blind side of the quarterback. And so normally you will find the best players on that side. But this gives the Ducks probably the top 2 strongest bookends you're going to find on any offensive line. And if you're a quarterback playing for Oregon, you got to be licking your chops and loving you're on this team, and probably not worried too much about your blind spot or the other side, as you got Conerly protecting the left side and Cornelius protecting the right side. And with lots of experience, Conerly has 901 snaps, played 901 snaps last season, and allowed only 1 sack with 2 quarterback hits and 14 total pressures. Going up against the Pac-12's best defensive ends, Connolly also holds the second best pass blocking BFF grade at 78.8, just behind his teammate Cornelius, who's an 85.3. This alone will help Oregon stay at that top 5 level and be probably a top 5 team in 2024. I cannot wait until October 12th when the Ducks face off with the Buckeyes in Eugene. That's going to be a great game for any college football fan. I know I'm going to be watching. Now, my number 2 ranked tackle in the Big Ten is Wisconsin's redshirt junior Riley Mahoney, and I think I'm pronouncing that. Mahoney is out of Lakeville, Minnesota. Riley is a big guy, about 6'8", 313 pounds, with a huge wingspan. Mahoney played his first full season last year and is the third highest offensive grade of any Big Ten returning tackle, behind Oregon's 2 bookends we just talked about. I know a lot of you will say Mahoney shouldn't go ahead of the 2 Oregon players, but to me, again, playing in the Big Ten to me means something. So I gave Mahoney the edge and had him earn that number 2 ranking. Mahoney is no slouch. He graded at a 74.4 overall with a run block grade of 73.1 and an outstanding pass block grade of 76.6, playing in the Big Ten against Big Ten opponents. And keep in mind, the PFF picked Mahoney as their 2023 All Big Ten right tackle last season. So don't underestimate this young man. Now, my number 1 ranked tackle is redshirt senior Ariante Ursary. Ursary was a second-team All Big Ten left tackle in 2023 and is projected to be the best returning tackle overall in the Big Ten. Some have Ursary rated as their number 3 tackle in the FBS, as Ursary has played in a ridiculous 1,662 snaps over the Minnesota Gophers' last 2 seasons. Ursary is 6'6", 325 pounds, and allowed only 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and only 8 quarterback hurries in all of 2023, ranking him 4th amongst all tackles, and only allowed 1 quarterback hurry against Ohio State last year when they played Ohio State. Against Ohio State Buckeyes future NFL defensive ends Jack Sawyer and JT Tamaloa. Now, I'll be putting out my top 5 wide receivers and my top 5 tight ends in the Big Ten here in the next few days. So make sure to click that subscribe button and click on notifications so you don't miss that video when it comes out. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Go Big Red.